All right, I've just started recording. Welcome to this version of the Operator SDK Community Triage meeting. Getting started as close to on time as seems reasonable. Remember that we are recording. Everything that is said will be published on the web, and please adhere to the standard code of conduct as always. And we're ready to get rolling. So our list looks pretty manageable. I'll just start jumping into it then. Operator SDK errors under WSL. I did not do any pre-cursory readings, which is normally I do. So does anybody have a take on this?
WSL? Does anybody know?
Let's see here.
Windows subsystem for Linux.
Oh. Well, technically we don't support Windows.
I know we don't officially support it, but if we do want to look into this one, I've had it on my bucket list of things to get around is testing our stuff out on WSL, because I actually also use Windows as my primary and choose Linux when I need to run operator stuff. So if we decide it's worth taking a look at, I'm happy to take a look at it.
Also, this would be running a Linux binary under WSL.
Right.
WSL is basically, it's Linux. I don't know exactly what the mechanism is.
It's like Linux, but it's missing some syscall implementations from what I understand. But again,
I think the real problem is though that we don't test in this scenario, and there could be differences. Clearly there are that we don't know about.
That's true.
I was going to say, if you look at his second comment, he says there's other modules that are broken for me, so it could very well be a local environment issue.
Yeah, I'd rather just say that we don't support this officially, and if other things are broken, then it's probably nothing to do with the SDK. So close this.
Cool.
I was going to throw out there. What do you think about? I do get the point. It makes a lot of sense that we don't have a test environment that supports this, but it might make sense to support whatever is discovered, knowing that we don't have any official support for it, but we would, especially if we have people online that are willing to take ownership and kind of see it through with best of service, if you want to call it that, or best effort until we get to a point where it doesn't make sense. I just throw that out there. The other question I would have is, I believe there's a WSL2 now, so I'd be questioning the difference between the two and what, how far back we go in supporting Windows, but if at all.
I think Microsoft doesn't really support the first version anymore. They're recommended, and the new default in Windows is 2. So I assume a newer bug than they have an up-to-date Windows, it's 2.
Well, one observation, the folk is using Go 1.15, so we know that it has some errors that will be faced. Maybe this can be related to the other ones in the second comment.
It's possible as well. Also, this is in client Go. It's in a dependency, so maybe there's an issue in that repo relating to this.
Great point.
To me, this seems like an environment issue. I wouldn't be surprised if Go mod or not Go mod, but Go root or Go path needed to be set to something else. It looks like a permission issue that is it's trying to write to a root directory. So who knows what user he ran as. My guess is, though, that this is not an Operator SDK issue. This is a Go environment or Go binary issue. And I would probably say, I would agree with Eric, which is we don't officially support this, but I would also agree with Ken and say, in the past, when people have come up and said, hey, I've got this problem on Windows, can we fix it? If we can fix it, then we go ahead and fix it, but we don't claim to support it in any release. So in this case, I would probably say, you might have a Go environment issue, check your Go path and your Go root, and maybe link. I'm sure there are people that have written blog posts and things about running Go under WSL. So let's So maybe we can find one of those and link to that and see if that helps.
Hey, what? I'll unless someone wants to grab this before I get back to it. After we end today, I will provide all that information here and then close this. So it'll, by the end of the, within 2 hours, it'll be closed, and it'll have information about, hey, in all likelihood, frankly, it's not an operator SDK issue anyway. It's a client Go, and I'll provide all the information Joe just mentioned. So
This is very nice. Ken, just don't, if it's possible, remember, let's tell for default, use the 13. Maybe
do what?
it is using the Go version 13 instead.
I see. Yep. Thank you for highlighting that. Okay, great.
Snub nose.
Jonathan? I didn't. No, all right. If you're trying to say something, I didn't pick it up, so please interrupt.
No, sorry.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Okay, let's see here. Next up is hit an unsupported type, invalid type for invalid type. Fascinating.
This error is very common if you check it in the issues, has many of them, or the type is invalid, it can be also, but usually is the configuration, the local configuration, the Golang stuff, and the folks say that the error started to occur 2 weeks ago with our old SDK version, so more one thing that leads me the impression to change in his setup in local config.
Yeah. I guess the remaining question is, is this ready to close, or should we put this in the backlog? Or it seems like it's handled, unless there's more information that comes in.
I would leave it for a while. Let's see if the Falcons, just for don't be rude, you know.
Never. It's our policy.
No, yeah.
I wouldn't be the one to change that policy, but okay, that's on the backlog. Anything else left for this? Wanted to leave an opportunity. I think we're just looking for more information, right? Or I'm not sure what we're looking for. But. Okay, they're updating object status. The object has been modified. Please apply your changes to the latest version. Try again. Is this a lack of familiarity with how to work with operators? Yeah, this needs someone's attention probably to ask questions. Unless he's.
The Go version again is 15.
Yeah.
I doesn't know if he's selected. But
it's not going to matter here.
Yeah.
What is the issue faced?
Getting a conflict error when they try to
reconcile
status update.
Yeah.
So that means that they're trying to, they've got a load balancer instance that is older than the one that's in the cluster, and they're trying to do an update, and that is correctly failing.
Right. That's what I see too.
So I think we just need to tell them how things are working under the hood. And it's possible, a lot of the times the reason this happens is someone gets a handle to like the initial version of their instance, does a couple of updates, but they don't pass like the correct pointers along so that the same thing continues to get updated locally. So what happens is they run a couple of updates against the cluster, and then they still use the original one that they got from the top of the reconcile function. And because it's now been updated, the subsequent update will fail. That's usually what this is.
So they either have to use the most recent version, or they have to unset the generation or whatever.
Yeah, just tell them forget the resource before try to update. To get to the latest version, fetch and then update it to ensure that.
That's one way of solving it, but that's sometimes like a Band-Aid. Because like I said, if it's a result of having updated previously in the same reconcile call, then there's a way to fix it without having to refetch again. If it's a result of like, I'm reconciling and my cache doesn't yet have the most fresh copy, then you do have to do like the get and then update, which you can do in a retry.conflict block.
Right. Yeah, I agree completely with Joe that you don't want to just refetch because you could actually have different state, which would be triggered into future events anyway. So
even if you did refresh, you wouldn't need to do it in a loop because you're going to be getting from the same cache that's out of date. So you have to wait till the cache gets updated. So you have to do it in this retry. Exactly.
So do we have any good docs on that we could just paste in here and provide as a solution, or does this require a verbose response?
I think it has other issues, similar issues in the past, but not a doc.
Yeah, okay. Anybody want to grab this? I mean, this is something that really should be answered and closed. I don't see this as being long. This is not a bug, at least not the way it's currently written. Also, there's two issues to close.
That second issue is in a different repo.
Yeah, took me a second to find that and realize that myself.
I can respond to this. I will say that this probably wouldn't be an SDK doc. This is something that would be in controller runtime as like a Go doc, I would expect, because they don't have like their own documentation per se. I wonder if this is even deeper than that, and this is like something client Go would emit. But I can look into that. I can follow up on this though, regardless. So yeah, just assign me.
I think it's probably controller runtime, only because like the combination of running in a reconcile with a cache and like all the different controller runtime client things that play into the reason this happens, I think it probably makes sense for it to be documented there.
Yeah, potentially. If it's not at the informal level, then yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, the error comes out
label on this. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think in my mind, like the error becomes apparent when someone uses the controller runtime client to do an update. So I would think that we would put some Go doc on the status.update and then the main client.update calls that basically says you have to pass in the most recent version of the instance that you want updated that the cluster knows about. And here are some reasons why you might not be doing that. And I think that would cover, I think there's two big reasons, right? Which are the ones that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, the challenge here is I completely agree with both of you actually, but Eric, your comment that this is upstream is 100%. However, I would expect that we're gonna, as we get more and more people adopting Operator SDK, there's a learning curve, and at the early stages of that learning curve, this has got to be one of the most common things. So it seems like it needs either some upstream attention or some kind of documentation. Not that that is now. I just see that this is probably.
That's why I'm always pushing for GoDoc, because if you're using an IDE or you're searching for this thing, like that's the first thing you see. And if you're an SDK user, you might not know to go look at the KubeBuilder tutorials and docs. So typically I'm always pushing for, if it's a controller runtime thing, let's put it in controller runtime Go docs.
Yeah. Yep. If it isn't in there anywhere and this error is like the point of origin is from controller runtime, then I'll make a PR.
Well, it's not though. It's like the error, from the user perspective, the error is from the update call. But if you start going up the stack, you see that the update call calls client Go, which calls a bunch of other things, and like it goes down the stack. But I think from a user perspective, it's probably beneficial to put it right there on the update because this is such a common thing. That's my 2 cents at least.
You want this to be directly on the update method?
I think there's like a high level thing we can put on the update method. And if there's more details, then maybe some of those details could be linked from the GoDoc in the update method, potentially.
Yeah. No, that's what I was thinking as well. It's the meat of my PR, or at least that's what I'd like it to look like. One of the problems with IDEs and Go is that if you have an interface defined and then a concrete method defined, you
can't always find the GoDoc for the concrete stuff.
Yeah, it'll always show the interface comments. So maybe if this is like a general quality of the client updater interface or whatever it's called, then it would still be possible to put it on that particular abstract type of, function signature. But we'll see. I'll deal with this regardless and ping you on it.
Now we just have to hope that people actually read docs.
Yeah, that's the other problem.
At least at that
If
point,
it's
we can
documented
send the
and they're
link.
not reading them, then that's something that we can't help as much. Could
I
you
have
add
found it much easier to, when someone asks about like the handlers, it's like, here's the GoDoc for the handlers, and then I can just close it. So we just need the GoDoc, and then we can just link it. And usually that tamps down the number of requests we get.
Perfect. Good, yeah, and at least there's a place to link to send a response, and hopefully that will encourage reading. Okay, next issue, SDK tool with a standard to report output a list of errors, SDK tool. Camilla, you wanna fill in the blanks? No?
Okay, I can. Just a moment, just to remember. Okay, I raised it is one because in one request, we have a discussion. Currently, we have the one bundle in the master and the bundle validation command, two subcommands doing a similar things that is return a list of errors. However, each subcommand has a different implementation. Also, if I'm not wrong, SCAR cards do the same. So my suggestion is instead if we implement a new code to achieve the same goal in each place, we just have, a standard and reuse that.
Yeah. And like I definitely agree with you on there needs to be a standard. I will say that there's a difference between output and error printing, and what you're referencing for scorecard is output, which is why I originally said we can't use this for printing errors. But we should have some sort of standard like print format for commands that check a bunch of resources and report errors on them, if any.
Do you agree that the bundle validates and the run bundle could use the same, at least the same implementation? Maybe.
No, because run bundle is working with live cluster resources, and bundle validate is printing out static validation errors that don't have to do with any live resource. So the errors are going to be completely different semantically. And you expect to see output from bundle validate, not like printed errors necessarily. Whereas run bundle, you don't ever expect to see any errors. And when you do see them, it's not output, it's not command output.
Okay, but we have that implementation in the bundle validation that is, it's like we have a structure, we added the errors and we have a list of errors. So maybe we could improve to define how, if you will be outputted, how how will be the result, but you use it the same, you know, try to centralize.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't think that these two things should be conflated and they shouldn't be centralized. Like the bundle validate error output or command output should be different from error reporting formats for the entire SDK based on or reporting errors for live cluster resources. I'm okay having like the same error reporting format for run package manifests and run bundle, but not for bundle validate and run bundle. I think this is more of like implementation detail rather than discussing what the reporting format should look like. I think Joe just posted something that could be of use here, a nice library for that.
Yeah, I would agree though with Eric that it's really two different use cases. One, I think we're talking about Go errors, which is run bundle, and the other we're talking about like standard out style printing of unexpected things happening in the bundle. But it's not an error in our program or an error that happened. It's output. So yeah, I would agree that they're different use cases.
Okay, so could we supplement like how we can, or better, how we can address like the both cases, like have a standard for both, you know, because both of them has a implementation in the internal package, so cannot be reused.
I guess the point, and maybe Eric, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the point that Eric's trying to make is that we don't want to reuse or share because they're two different use cases and they require two different implementations.
Okay, but my point is, could you not have other cases that are similar to both? I'm okay with you, we have two implementations, but no, like it went, you know.
But again, like this isn't two implementations of the same use case. This is two implementations of two different use cases.
Okay, but now we have 3 implementations or 4 implementations. So this can grow up. So my suggestion is like we centralize it, have it one lead before the case A and do one standard for the case B.
I think it's unlikely that we'll have more and more use cases that require subtly different implementations. My guess would be that these are the main two. Like one is outputting expected errors and one is outputting unexpected errors. And so like if we get to the third thing that is going to need one of those, then at that point, it probably makes sense to reuse the implementation that applies to that use case.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have a third thing yet. So I think it'd be a premature optimization to do something like that. I would suggest that we could look into the Go multi-error thing that I linked, just as a way to, like, if we've implemented a couple of things ourselves that already solves, like maybe that's a good thing we could use as a base library. But it doesn't seem to me like we have like a thing that we really need to change right now based on all the discussion that's happened in the last 5 minutes or so.
I would suggest a vocabulary change. I don't know. So the vocabulary change would be there's errors, and that's standard Go errors, for which you may want multiple error messages, which is what HashiCorp provides. The thing that I see documented here, I would call validation. And when you are validating the use of the tool, sometimes you need to report errors to the user, or sometimes you report warnings. So there's different types of things that you're providing user guidance to the end user. And I prefer to call those validators or validation. And one type of validation is they're in error of their use of the tool. But to call it an error within the code can lead to a lot of confusion, which is evident here.
Yeah, I agree. Because in the both scenarios is a list of validations or errors, just to change how easy usage, do you know? Maybe we could do something more smart. This is the point.
All right, how do we
So-
want to handle this issue? Yeah, Eric.
I don't think, I mean, correct me if anybody thinks differently, but I don't think this is like of the level that we need a proposal for. I think just some discussion about what that format would look like in this particular issue. I am a little bit interested in this, so you can assign it to me. This kind of relates to some other work that both Camilla and I have worked on as well, and requests from the community related to like how we print output. So it might be a good idea to try and like tackle the separation of semantics here as well,
Yep.
which is what you were just talking about. I would say we can put this into the backlog for now because this isn't really like a
Low priority
urgent
stuff.
issue. Yeah. And then can you add the feature request and priority important long-term labels to this?
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Was there another one?
Feature.
Oh, yep.
Well, and Camilla, if you have ideas, we can talk about this out of band too.
In the spare time, we can try to do something and see if we can find something else. Really, thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Clarification around this is going to make life easier, so that's great. Okay, flaky test, operator SDK OLM install. Austin, you want to fill us in?
Yeah. A couple of us hit this issue in our CI. Looks like it's just a matter of hitting the GitHub API too frequently when we open too many pull requests. So if there's some way that we can reduce the load against GitHub, that would be good, because right now, if we open too many pull requests or really just run too many Travis jobs all at the same time, we can get failing CI exactly at the worst time.
We know for sure that it's only us, or is it possible that it's more broadly the collection of all Travis CI jobs hitting GitHub?
Well, the limit is pretty low for GitHub, so I can't imagine it would ever work if it was all Travis. Maybe it's just all Travis for our org, but I'm kind of imagining that each Travis instance, well, actually, I don't know.
It could be, I guess it depends on how GitHub has implemented their things. It could be that Travis has GitHub knows about Travis and obviously wants to allow Travis to have traffic, so it has higher limits for Travis potentially. Another option could be that GitHub has limits per org or per URL or something like that, in which case then it probably is us doing it. But it might be nice to do some of that, try to figure out exactly which limits we're tripping, and I don't know, does that make sense?
Would not it is solved with the Vargas PR to use the manifests inside of the binary?
So
yeah,
what
I was going to say that.
What I'm suggesting is that it might not be that if we have anything that hits GitHub anywhere in our CI, we could potentially run into this depending on how the throttling is set up on GitHub side, right?
Yeah, I think no matter what, this is a risk with any CI system that we don't directly control like all the networking for. But with Varsh's PR, like these OLM install errors can be mitigated because we can specify the version that is local. So there will be less overall GitHub requests. And
yeah, so at the very worst, like we have less chance of hitting it because we only try to hit GitHub, 2 or 3 times rather than 10 or 20 times or whatever the number is. But yeah, I don't think that means we'll solve it. it's likely, or at least it's possible, that those 2 or 3 will trip for the same reason, given some other external things that we don't control.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's too much that we can do about this except for like try and reduce the number of GitHub calls on our side.
So here's how I think we ought to proceed. I'd like to just add this to the backlog and just kind of make a list of questions that need to be answered and just like chip away at it. And then becomes, if it keeps bothering us, we'll have somewhere to start. But I don't think we need to get on this right now.
Sounds good.
Yeah, great. That answers the triaging. It's been a while since I've looked at this. At one point, though, I did years back, and I believe there is a threshold that changes based on whether it's the type of user, based on like tokens. So it might be, well, so there's some things that potentially we could look at. I think there's a huge difference between a non-tokened public request from an IP address versus a tokened request. I think there's a huge difference. So
yeah, when I did a little bit of investigation in the very beginning, and I saw what you're talking about, and I've hit that before also, but that may just be with the GitHub API. I'm not sure if it's any different for just downloading a like binary from a release. I'm not sure if that's like through the API client.
Yeah, I wonder if we could attach a token to that request and avoid the throttling, even though it's like not necessarily an API request. That'd be an interesting thing to look through docs about.
you also might be able to, again, this is all future thinking, but do a query to see where you stand and skip the test if you fall within a certain range, and be okay with the skipping of that particular test, but not okay for releases or for certain categories or classifications of tests. But anyway, yep. Everybody good? Anything left remaining to discuss on this? Hearing none. All right. Attempting to build operator and coming empty. Not sure if that title makes sense to me, but
can you scroll down to the bottom? I might have responded to this.
you did.
Okay, yeah. I did not get a chance to get back to this person quite yet. So I have a feeling that there's something going wonky in their project structure, how they organize things, because I haven't seen this in a 1.0 operator before.
Okay. Looks like it's already got most of what we need probably on the backlog until we have it resolved. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And
I think he did provide more information, so it's just a matter of us either gathering more or analyzing what he's provided.
Yeah, can you change the triage label from needs information to support? Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay. Can't install necessary binaries in Ansible operator.
Yeah, so I glanced at this one. I don't think MySQL's in the UBI, like the base UBI repository. So I'm not really sure, like, I don't think this is really the right place to ask these types of questions. But I can respond with basically saying what's going on, like just need to add that repo or whatever. But I'm not exactly sure what repo they need, but
yeah,
it's not really on us to tell them where RPMs live.
Right. Well, I don't even know, Yum is not even supported on UBI, is it? That's not how I would do it, so.
It
Maybe
may
it is.
just be a alias of DNF. UBI minimal uses micro DNF, but
Right. Okay, great. So I understand the the feedback. You got it, and then we'll put on the backlog, and I guess close it out. I agree with you. This is
yeah, I guess add support too.
okay. Excellent. Anything else? Last one then. It's possible to use the interactive mode just once. And is this a request to use it more? Is that what?
We triaged
Sure.
this one last week, but we decided not to keep going, I think, until Camilla's back.
That's right.
I think it is we spoke in the past. I don't remember just a moment. I think this is old.
So for the what we talked about last week is that maybe this is a alternate implementation, like a different feature for interactive mode that maybe isn't actually happening, and we could probably just close it.
We didn't want to close it while you were on a holiday or absent.
No, it's fine.
I have some I'd like to talk about this. I don't remember if I talked about this last week, but I suppose we could talk about it again if I did. So I was reviewing some pull requests Camilla was doing, some stuff in the end-to-end tests. And it came to my attention that in some of our end-to-end test setup, we're like manually adding and removing stuff to the generated make file to get it to run automatically in CI because it defaults to interactive mode. And apparently there's no way to bypass that for some of the commands. And I was just wondering if that really made sense. Like, do we expect people to use the make file for real? I feel like if we do, they probably are going to do stuff like we're doing with it to like run tests and stuff in CI environments. And if that's the case, I feel like non-interactive should be the default, or at least an option.
If if non-interactive is the default, then nobody's ever going to use it.
If non-interactive is the default.
Yeah.
Because like you run the command for the first time and it scaffolds some code, and then like, are you going to enable interactive mode after that? Like, when are you going to do that? So it's weird to have non-interactive be the default when interactive is an option.
So let's step back a little bit and talk about the use case we had in mind, at least. So the idea was the very first time after you init a project, and maybe we could change how we init projects and run this during init, but disregarding that, the idea was when you init the project and run make manifest the very first time, it's going to ask you about the metadata that you want in your CSV. And then it writes a file into the config directory with that metadata UI stuff for the CSV. And then from then on, after that file is in, and we expect that file to be checked in. And then from then on, when you run make manifest, if it sees that file is there, never ask for anything else. And so if you want to go change something, you're expected to either run with interactive equals true or go and just manually change that file. So the idea is when you're running in CI, you've probably filled in that metadata the first time, or you ran CI and you noticed that it just hung there waiting for input. You debugged it and figured out you had to go and check that file in. And then from then on, it works kind of the way that you would expect it to.
Ah, okay.
Maybe we do need some better docs around all of that.
Would it be possible to detect whether or not the make file is being run from an interactive shell?
That's possible. There's probably, so you're suggesting like if we notice that we're running non-interactively, then don't even try to do anything with interactive.
Right.
Yeah, that should be doable. I think there's a downside there, which is that users might never even realize that their CSV got generated with some dummy placeholder data until pretty late in the game in terms of having published a bundle and added it to an index, and then you finally see that you have some weird placeholder data there. But I don't know. I mean, that's not a bad idea. That's something we could consider for sure. There's pros and cons, I guess, no matter what.
Personally, I'm okay keeping things as they are because like you need to do different things differently in a CI environment in, you know, various commands through like, or for any, you know, CLI system that I've ever used. That's just like how things are. And we wrap things in a makefile to make things easier for users who are manually doing stuff. That's really what this comes down to. Typically, if you're a user and you're running things in CI, then you've already got some base CSV to work from that you've created locally first, and you're just testing updates to it. So I don't think you would need to use or turn off interactive by default. What we're doing in end-to-end tests is emulating what a user would be doing manually. So that's why this is a little bit weird, but I don't necessarily think that's a problem that we need to fix.
No, it's fine. I understand. So, but the gist is that once a user has generated the thing and checked that file, and it should run automatically.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's sufficient.
Great conversation. Great. We're at the end of issues, and if there's any other topics that someone would like to bring up, this would be a good time to do that.
I have one, which is that because of the CNCF donation, we've been transferring all of our assets over. And one of the things that's on our website right now, on the latest website, is the Red Hat statement on Black Lives Matter. But if you've looked at the master version of the site, you'll notice that it's gone. And that's because we wanted to get rid of all of our Red Hat stuff. So I would be super interested in re-adding a non-Red Hat specific version of that same statement. I'm not sure if anyone else would be interested in working on that, but I personally think we should keep it.
Yeah,
Kubernetes
I
has a
think
banner
Rob,
that we could just use the same one, maybe.
didn't Rob Zumsky say he was working on that? Because he was the one who made the PR to remove it. And in the PR, he said that he's doing it for like to remove Red Hat stuff, and he's looking for another one. At the very least, we should reach out to him about that.
Do we have an open issue for that we could ping someone on, or is this like a closed PR that is kind of lost at this point?
It's a merged PR. We could open up a new issue though, and I think we should.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm 100% supportive of it. I'm not sure what I could do to help, but willing. Sounds like we've got somebody lined up though, which would be great.
Okay.
I'll create a new issue.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Oh, and I guess you'll ping Rob.
Yeah. I'm going to try to find the PR where we got rid of the Red Hat one.
Plus one for, if you agree, folks, use the same message, the same text that it has in the Kube Builder and the other stuff. Science. Awesome idea.
Excellent. Anything else?
Yeah, so from our grooming meeting, we should be doing release a week from Wednesday, I think. So that would be October 14th. Does that sound right to everybody?
Yep.
That's right.
Cool. Well, I drew the short straw, and so I'll be doing this next release. So if you're assigned a 1.1 milestone, I'll be pinging and we can see if we're going to get that in or not. And I'll be posting to the mailing list to suggest a soft code freeze, I guess, so that we're not trying to merge everything right before 1.0 goes out. But you know, if we have to, we can make exceptions. So I'm going to propose that we get everything in by this Friday, if we can, and kind of leave it alone if we can for a day or two, and then do the release on Wednesday the 14th.
Should we recheck the open issues for this release? Do you think it is something that would help you with that if you recheck now, if you have time?
In the grooming meeting, we did go through them all, and so everything that's in that milestone is assigned. Oh, actually, there is one that's not assigned. Ansible operator GCP auth provider not found. It's 3973. And it's from 5 hours ago. So how did this get added though?
I think this one has a pull request already.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Is it too late? Should I add this issue about the Black Lives Matter banner to that milestone, or should we not do that?
I think go ahead and add it.
Okay.
I don't think we'll block the release on it. Of this list, we only have one that's currently assigned to be a release blocker.
I would say it would be nice to have a consistent BLM message across releases. And so if we don't release 1.1 with a message, then it won't be in the tagged release docs.
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
we haven't removed it in a release yet. It's always been in master removal.
All right, so let's follow the official process. We've got one person nominating a release blocker. Do we have anybody who disagrees?
Which one was that again? Just so we're clear. This error message?
3975, the re-add Black Lives Matter banner.
Oh.
So I don't think anyone disagrees. So
it won't ever actually go away.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I was just explaining why. Because if we re-add it before the release comes out, then it won't ever actually go away, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Yeah. So let's add a release blocker to that one. That's fine. And Joe, would you communicate that to Rob too?
Yeah, I'm pinging him on this issue now.
Sweet.
Just for clarity, it seemed odd to me that's a release blocker, not has nothing to do with the importance of it. It has to do with it seems like a documentation which seems separate from the release of code. And is it the intention, which I have not been a part of a conversation around this, but is there the release of documentation that is also released at the time of packaging? Artifacts?
Yeah, so the way that we do the version documentation is that the docs are built at the time of the release from the same tag as the release. So
got it.
Any docs updates between releases are only going to be made to like master, but they won't actually show up unless they get backported to the .x. It's not ideal, but it's a compromise.
Yeah, it's just a constraint I wasn't aware of, so I appreciate it a great deal.
I think if we get to the 1.1 release and we want to release without this, there's another process that we could do, which is we could say, okay, we'll go out without this. We have a release branch. We can make the change later, put the release backboard to that release branch, make a new tag, and then the latest release in the SDK site would have that banner again. So
great.
I don't oppose the release blocker label. I would say let's try our best to get this done. It should be fairly straightforward, but we can take it off if we really, really want to.
Yeah, full agreement. It's great.
Cool. Just for good paperwork, can we assign these top two, somebody just to make sure that these get in or get moved to 1.2?
I was with you until you said 1.2. What's the request?
So I think that everything that has the 1.1 milestone needs to have a champion, somebody who's just going to make sure that it either gets in or it gets bumped to the next release milestone if we want to slip.
Let me look real quick. So just for check-in real quick, we have a meeting. We have our monthly meeting Wednesday, and then we have another bug triage on the 12th. Is that next Monday, I think? So we'll have a couple other check-in points to make some verifications, but I do like the idea of having someone to spearhead. Does anybody want to follow up on that?
I'll take 3973. It's already got a pull request. I think it's just a matter of making sure that it gets merged.
Well, I'm not sure we'll have time to go through each one of these, but we might as well start trying. Does someone want to champion this? Make sure that I think, Joe, were you or Eric already on this? Maybe Rob?
I don't think I can commit, only because I'm pretty busy on a bunch of other tasks. If anybody else would be willing to volunteer, I would really appreciate it.
I'll just take both of them. It's no big deal. I'll consider that part of my release nanny duties.
Thanks, Austin.
Someone running the gauntlet with this one?
Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah, there's already a PR open, which is nice. And it's pretty much good to go.
We should definitely call this the Austin release.
Yeah, thanks,
okay,
Austin.
So looks like we have people on the rest of these. I'm on that. I think we've got them all covered then. Okay, great. 6 more minutes. Any other topics to bring up? No. Okay. So as mentioned, just to repeat again, I think this Wednesday there is a monthly meeting already scheduled, and then next Monday, Jonathan will be running the next bug triage. And with that, this seems like a fairly productive hour. So really appreciate the attendance, appreciate all the feedback, and thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody. See ya.
Thank you. Really thank you for your commitment, King. This is very nice.
Thank you.